Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Well, Man of Steel 2 is coming. It is in development, apparently, at Warner Brothers Discovery, and why wouldn't it be? There's no way they're going to have Henry Cavill appear in Black Adam at the end, or wherever, and not have him in development for Man of Steel 2. Also, kind of everybody seems to like Henry Cavill. He does look like Superman. It's just a question of, like, how is it going and when is this thing going to come out? Now, I did a video earlier today, a massive DC movie update, and this is already mentioned in a little bit of a way in that video. It's my playlist, 55 videos on Warner Brothers Discovery. And so you might want to check that out as well. We're going to cover it a little bit more in depth here and also talk a little bit about how Walter Hamada was basically screwing with Henry Cavill, preventing him from returning as Superman. How can you stop Superman? You can't stop Adam Post, and you can't stop Superman either. All right, let's get into the first article. Before we do, please do subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. You guys have been amazing. The channel is growing. I really appreciate you. Okay, so from Collider, Man of Steel 2 is reportedly in development with Henry Cavill. Almost 10 years on, the high-flying sequel is currently looking for a writer. Do you want to write the sequel? Perhaps they'll have you do it. They'll find somebody. The future of DC films has been rocky due to Warner Brothers' recent merger with Discovery. Yeah, a little bit. And David Zaslav taking over the famous studio. However, in the last decade, there have been a couple of gems in DC's catalog and that fans have loved. One of those films is Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, starring Henry Cavill. It was good, obviously, as Superman. It's the film that kicked off the DCEU as we know it, but since its release in 2013, Man of Steel has never received a sequel. That's probably Walter Hamada's fault. However, that now looks to be changing. Reportedly, exclusively here by The Hollywood Reporter, DC is developing a Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill set to return. The studio is currently in process, and they're looking for a writer. This news is part of a larger DC piece detailing the franchise's future, but longtime DC producer Charles Roven is on the project, and apparently Warner Brothers has a director wish list. The Hollywood Reporter highlights that Mission Impossible Christopher McQuarrie is on that list. That's all we really know for now. It makes sense that McQuarrie would be desired as he worked with Cavill on Mission Impossible Fallout. While McQuarrie is currently hard at work on the last two Mission Impossible films, Dead Reckoning Part 1 and 2, Man of Steel 2 is still very much in the early stages of development. McQuarrie has already shown he can handle an action-heavy blockbuster with Mission Impossible, which makes him the perfect choice to tackle a character like Superman. It would be great, but he's obviously tied up with these two other very important Mission Impossible movies. Is it likely he's going to get it? Let me know what you think in the comments below. When Man of Steel was released, it was a film that was divisive among both fans and critics alike. It was very much a Snyder film that it posed the question, what if Superman landed in our real world? Which is a great thing to do with superheroes. It really makes you kind of think and gives you context and makes things relatable. It's interesting when they do that. Because of that, it was a much darker Superman story than mainstream audiences were used to at the time. Thankfully, in the decade since the film has been released, it's gotten a reappraisal. Cavill's wonderful performance alone made that film one of the most complex character studies found in any modern superhero blockbuster. From its brilliant action to its epic musical score from Hans Zimmer to the great villains, Man of Steel is a top 10 comic book film of all time. That's why this news is going to make a lot of fans happy. It feels like DC fans have been waiting for ages for some good news after the countless delays, cancellations, and conflicting bleak reports. This is not only good news we've been waiting for, but it might be the best DC news a fan could ask for. While nothing is set in stone, just up till now, it's just nice knowing that the ball has started to roll on a follow-up to Man of Steel. I mean, you can't have Superman and not make Superman movies, right? I mean, what's the point of owning the DC franchise for Superman and not actually utilizing it? That seems a little ridiculous. This is really all Walter Hamada's fault, though, apparently. And I covered a bit in this video from earlier today, but let's take a look at Cosmic Book News, one of my favorite websites. Walter Hamada tried stopping Henry Cavill's return as Superman. Details are learned about the return of Henry as the Man of Steel involving Dwayne Johnson and Warner Brothers Discovery. In the big report about the state of DC films, which we've been discussing, it's further said that Hamada also tried to move past having Zack Snyder be involved in the films. You know, it does make sense that you have a company, you have important franchises, you don't want to be beholden to like one director. You want Zack Snyder, like whatever, to be your guy who's going to make decisions about how things are going to be released, whatever. The answer is, well, technically no, but maybe yes. It depends on your relationship and how talented that person is and what the success of their work has been. Zack Snyder's films were generally well received and they made a lot of money. Walter Hamada, though, was all about the Batgirl, and all about changing DC for what it was. And it looks more like a power play of Walter Hamada to kind of say, hey, no, I want to control it and we want to go in a whole different direction. Let's get J.J. Abrams in to make the first black Superman, because that would be like, hey, it's the first major change to Superman. The answer to that is like, well, if you are producing things and miraculously enough, because it's not enough to own these great franchises, miraculously enough, you can get fans excited about what you're doing. If fans like it, it really is a small miracle. So whatever it is that just keeps working, obviously you should do more of what works without any kind of excuses of, oh, but we need to make this look more like that, then have representation like this. Tell me if you don't agree or you do agree in the comments below, please. Because I will tell you, as someone who's published more than 1,000 comic books, sometimes things work and sometimes things don't work. You know if they work. Sometimes when you're putting it together creatively, you kind of see like, whoa, this is a hit. And you kind of know it's going to be a hit. Probably biggest hit I ever did was Chromium Man. But it doesn't all things, you don't know if it's a hit until you get feedback from fans. When fans say, yeah, I like this, I love this, I'm excited about it, when's the next thing coming? That's what you're supposed to do when you're creating content. The whole objective is to get to that point where you have consumers who are excited about it. Not obviously consumers who are not real consumers who are trying to get you to change it, to fit some kind of a social agenda or something like that. That's guaranteed failure. It's really good to see Walter Hamada on the way out because he was trying to do this. You know, how could it be? You have Superman, you have access to Henry Cavill, like make another Superman. You know, so what if it's with Zack Snyder? As we have Dwayne Johnson to thank, we do have Dwayne Johnson to thank, The Rock, for the return of Henry Cavill as Superman. And why do we have that? Because it was The Rock pushing to have Superman fighting his character, Black Adam, or at least, in a cameo at the end of the movie, which we learned was filmed in September, literally a month before the actual movie was going to be released in October, Black Adam. And it was The Rock pushing his ex-wife to get Henry involved because his ex-wife is The Rock's manager, but is also the manager for Henry Cavill. So there's a contact there. And when The Rock got Henry interested and The Rock brought it to Walter Hamada, Hamada said, no, we don't want Henry Cavill as Superman. And The Rock went over his head, it's a big deal to do something like that. But hey, he's The Rock, so he could do that. So he got Henry Cavill back into the costume. That's a big deal. Regarding the return of Henry Cavill as Superman, The Hollywood Reporter reports that Cavill and Superman were not the initial plans for Black Adam. And they weren't. And we covered this before. They were going to introduce a Supergirl. I mean, what Hamada was trying to do over there, thank goodness they got rid of the guy. Dwayne Johnson got him back, and that is what we, of course, just covered. Now, I'm going to have a link to this in the description below. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate you. And I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.